Hey everyone, welcome to another $1,000 strap search. I've got my $1,000 in singles here and I'm about to show you what I found. But before I do, let's talk about this week's tip. Now, this week I was able to acquire notes from a new bank. My dad wanted me on his account and he had an account at a different bank than I have. So by adding me to that account, I asked that bank, this is what I do. I collect singles and I get stuff like this. And with me on his account, would I be able to do that at this particular bank? And they said yes. So all of this is from a brand new bank. Now, you'll notice that these all have the Federal Reserve Bank straps. They gave me 1,000 from the Federal Reserve. Now, what that means is that other banks acquired a bunch of singles. They had too many, so what they did was they sent them back to the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve then went through, pulled out anything that was all marked up or any note that was in really bad condition, and then restrapped the ones that were still good for circulation and sent those out to places that were ordering singles. So these aren't going to have any stamps. These are going to have very little writing on them at all. And they're going to be in decent shape, semi-decent shape. They're still considered functioning notes. That's why they were sent back out into the wild. These are always fun to search because you know that if you come across anything, it's going to be in decent shape. The Federal Reserve deemed it good enough to still be in circulation, so you're not going to find some ultra rare note that's just in horrific condition. You're going to find stuff that's circulated but still decent. So with that, what did I find? Let's start off with, well, this one's a birthday note. This one's 12/12/1984. So December 12th, 1984. That was the first note that came up there, and I think I found another one as well. Let me get these out of the way so I've got some room to work. There we go. I also found this one. That would be the 27th of March, 1935. So that one would be a little older, I guess you'd say. I did find a number of trinaries, 1s, 2s, and 4s on this one. This one is 2s, 3s, and 9s, one away from a binary, of course, just one away from a binary. This one is 2s, 6s, and 9s, also one away from a binary. 1s, 6s, and 9s on this one. 1s, 7s, and 8s. 0s, 3s, and 8s. 1s, 5s, and 9s, so close to a radar. You start reading that one and you're talking 9 on the outside, 1, 5, and then you've got the 1, 5 in the middle. If this was 11 or if this was 55, that would have been a radar. But still a trinary and in really good shape. Let's see, this one's quads. Quad 1s on this note, pretty rough in the middle there. Quad 3s. What do we got? Quad 3s again. Another one with quad 3s. And then we get to the stars. I found a lot of stars. Well, did I find a lot of stars? I knew I found a lot of older notes. This one is one of the Kansas City notes, J note. Really good shape there. 2017 from Virginia. Another J note, also real good shape. 2017 A note, starting with a couple zeros. Now, you'll hear me say that quite often, and what I'm referring to when I say that it's starting with a couple zeros is generally you're looking for notes that have short print runs. And if they did the short print run first, that means that there would be less than 1 million of those notes printed. Well, if there are 2 zeros, that means that this is 977,478. That's why whenever you hear me talking about there's a couple zeros, that's what I'm referring to. By it having 2 zeros, that means this one is less than number 1 million, which piques my interest as far as it potentially being a rare star note. Here's another one, same case right there, starting with a couple zeros. Now, when they're starting with 3 or 4 zeros, that's when I get a little more excited. This one's in rough shape. I don't know what kind of schmutz is on there like that. 2013 star note. 2009 star note. And this one's in really nice shape. And check this out. That's a 1999 star note. 1999, really nice shape, still extremely crisp. I should probably get that in a sleeve right away. Now, I did find some older notes, like the 1999 star note wasn't cool enough. This one's from 2001. Like I said before, I'm starting to pull up 2001s because you don't see them as often. 1999. This one is pretty rough. 1995. Now remember, once we get to 95, we're looking over here to see if it's a web note. And a web note is only going to have the one little digit over there, and a web note will have nothing right here where this one says E3. So that's 1995. Another 1995, not a web note. Pretty rough shape. Another 95. This one's pretty crisp. This one's still decent. This one's a little rougher. 95. The edge has been curling on this one here. That one's probably going to go back. This one as well, 1995. Still not a web note. Didn't come across any of those. 1993. These are real tough. These are just so tough to come across. They did not print very many of the 1993s. You went from 1988, and then you had 1988A. Then came the 93 and the 95 right after that. So there wasn't a whole lot of time for the 1993 series to get printed. So whenever you find one of these, that's something you don't see at all. Now, here is a 1988A, and it's got 5 of a kind. Not a web note, but still 88A, 5 of a kind on there. Another 88A, a little rough on the condition. 1981, so we're getting there. And the oldest note in the group, it's got a little bit of ink on it, unfortunately, is a 1969D. 1969 Series D, and it is from Richmond, Virginia. Now, normally when you find older notes, they almost always have a G on there, so I get real excited when I see an older note that doesn't have a G, because that means it may find a spot in my book. And finally, I did find a binary. 3s and 0s on this one. That's all you got. 33033003. Almost a radar, almost a repeater. Doesn't matter. It is a binary. 2017 binary. It was in really nice shape. Yep, no writing or anything like that. Really, really good shape for that binary, so I got that in a sleeve right away. So, as far as the new bank goes, that was very successful. Not only was it successful in the finds, but they were also really excited to hear what I do, and hopefully they both subscribed. I passed out my cards, so we'll see what happens there. And finally, what did I bring out from my box this week? Well, I have never really highlighted this individually, so I'm going to do that this time. What I've got here is a 1935A silver certificate. Now, a 35A silver certificate doesn't sound like a big deal, but you would be a little mistaken. Now, a lot of the silver certificates start off at about $3, and very few of them ever get more than that. But this one is a little different. Take a quick peek at the back. You can see it does not have the motto, "No, in God we trust." That would be from 1935 and possibly G or H for those series. But being a 1935A, it does not have the motto. You will notice what it does have, which is that bright red R. Now, that bright red R is supposed to be there. That is not a counter stamp. That is real. The bill was printed that way. The reason the bill was printed that way is they came up with an idea that they wanted to try a different coating on the paper, and they wanted to do an experiment to see how well that paper and that coating lasted. So what they did was they needed a control. So they printed roughly 1 million notes or so with this red R. Now, these are just your regular 1935A notes. This was no different than any other note you were going to find out there, but they were using this as part of the test. When they did their special note, they needed something to make a direct comparison to. So this is the R note, R standing for regular. It was the regular portion of the experiment. And what they did is, like I said, they printed 1 million or so of these notes and they released them into the wild so that they could be circulated. And they also released their special notes. And after a certain period of time, as the notes were going through banks, they would pull these notes so that they can compare how well the R notes did to their special notes. Now, when people started to see the R's, and the other one is an S note, when people started to see these weird markings on there, a lot of people decided they were going to hold on to these notes. which made the experiment pretty much fail. People were treating these notes differently, so it wasn't a fair comparison as far as how that worked. Therefore, the changes that were made, they never followed through on any of that because they didn't have a fair experiment. Let's take a look at what the big book has to say. Here is the big book, and you can see right here the very familiar 1935. That was what it looks like. That is the front. That is the back with "No, in God We Trust." And as we go down here, we can see 1935A. There's a lot of them because you have to get to right here. And there it is, 1609, 1609 star, 1610, 1610 star. Those are the R and the S series. You can see that right there. And you can see that they printed 1.1 million of the R's and only 12,000 of the star notes. So if you come up with an R note that's a star, you're sitting pretty good. You can see that the R note starts off at about $75. If you find the star, you're talking $800 as a starting point. As you get further along, you're talking $125. Once you are talking uncirculated, you're talking $575, and a Gem Perfect one, you're looking at about $950. That Gem Perfect star note, $17,500. That's all. So yeah, good notes to find, and you don't see them very often. If you go to a show, you're lucky to find one or two. You'd be lucky to find both the R and the S at the same show, but an affordable note, and one that a lot of people don't necessarily have in their collection. So that is my 1935A R note. So that's what I've got for you guys this week. If you learned anything new, go ahead and hit that like button. If you like what you see and you want to see more, please subscribe. And I love reading your guys' comments. So I'll talk to you guys again next week.